If you're serious about becoming documentary cinematographer, then you absolutely have to learn how to shoot good handheld footage. And that's what I'm going to show you today. My name is Jakub, I'm a working documentary filmmaker and cinematographer, and over the past few years I was able to travel to some incredible, beautiful places and film stories of extremely inspiring individuals. In my opinion, shooting handheld really has its magic. First of all, it's a versatile style of shooting, but also it looks very organic and authentic, which makes it a perfect fit for documentaries. But there's nothing worse if you, as an editor or a director, receive a hard drive, you look at the footage, it's shot handheld, but it's shaky, it's all over the place, the movement has no direction, and now you have to work with it. Let me tell you, if you deliver a footage like this to a production company or a producer or editor, I can guarantee that they will probably not call you back. So whether you're a videographer who wants to get into the world of documentary cinematography, or you're a solo filmmaker and you want to elevate your handheld skills, let me show you how. So before I give you some practical tips on shooting handheld, let me just say this. Handheld is a very versatile style, but before I start any project, I always ask, is handheld the right decision? For most of the documentary shoots it is, but it is important to think about this question because you really want to make sure that the camera movement and the style that you're using to shoot is supporting the story. So that's just one thing to keep on your mind. Always think about why are you actually shooting handheld before you decide to do it. So step number one, guys, add some weight to your camera. Most cinema cameras these days don't have image stabilization. And so if the camera is too light, you will get a lot of kind of micro shake from your hands and from your body. So add some weight, let the gravity do the work. Same goes for mirrorless cameras. Even though image stabilization in mirrorless cameras these days is really good, if your camera doesn't have image stabilization, or if you prefer to shoot without image stabilization, then definitely add some weight to your mirrorless cameras. You can do this by adding V-mount batteries, adding monitor, and then once you do that, make sure that your camera is properly balanced, so it's not leaning too much forward, backwards, or sideways. As you can see, if I hold my camera just like this, it is pretty much balanced. And that way, I'm letting the gravity do the work, and I don't have to worry about balancing the horizon when I'm shooting. Step number two, guys, and this is especially if you want to make sure that you're getting stable shots without a lot of movement, is to lock your camera in. That means that you want to find as many points of stabilization as possible. Ideally, you want to find at least 3 points of stabilization. So if I'm holding camera like this, I only have 2 points, the top handle and the bottom, or the side handle. But if I lock the camera into my body, which I can do here, I'm suddenly getting 3 points of stabilization. 1, 2, 3. That way I'm eliminating micro shake and I'm really getting stable footage. This allows me then to pan the camera from side to side, or even tilt it up and down. Second option that you can do if you don't want to put your camera into your chest is having something like a fanny pack. I love using a fanny pack because it allows me to basically put the camera on and just have it rested like this. It means that I'm shooting from the hip, but if the project or the story requires shooting from the hip, I'm really happy to put the camera here. And basically, this allows me to get really stable footage this way. So, previous tip was all about making sure that you get stable footage, as stable as possible by locking your camera in. Now, let's say that you want to add a little bit of movement or even a lot of movement to your camera work. And this is the beauty of handheld, that it's very versatile and it allows you to almost have your camera as an extension of your body. It allows you to react to situations in the moment, and it allows you to organically move from one situation to another, which, for example, gimbal doesn't allow you to do because the movement is a little too mechanical. So now, if you want to move with your camera, you actually don't want to lock it in unless you're panning or tilting. If you want to walk with the camera, run with the camera, or do sort of a sliding movement, you want to get it away from your body. So that way, your body is not causing the shake when you walk. Now, That way you only have 2 points of stabilization, but imagine that your arm actually works as an easy rig. So the gravity is pulling the camera down, and this arm is kind of just like balancing it and making sure that there's no micro shake. What I like to do when I want to walk with the camera is that I usually grab it like this or like this, and then I do what is called a ninja walk. Ninja walk is basically a slow walk in which you go from your heel to your toe, you bend your knees a little bit to have sort of natural suspension, and then you start walking. Now, if I compare it to a normal walk, you can definitely see the difference on the footage. So, ninja walk, definitely a thing that you can practice at home. As I said, heel to toe, and you bend your knees slightly so you have that natural suspension. One thing to remember, guys, is that we're shooting handheld, and so the goal of handheld is not to make the footage look like tripod or gimbal. The goal is to have that organic handheld shake and feel. So don't put too much pressure on yourself that every shot should be perfect and every shot should be extremely stable. What the shots shouldn't have is micro shake and unintentional movement that is just all over the place. Now, if you want to move your camera just from side to side, then you can spread your legs a little bit, you bend your knees, and you basically go into this sort of a sliding movement. It's like a side lunge. This way you can grab the camera, refocus, and you go from side to side. Now, same goes for a push-in. So if I'm pushing in, I'm really using my knees and my hips to do that movement instead of my hands. So I go like this. If you stabilize this in post, you get a very smooth, sometimes almost gimbal-like movement. Now, to do these movements, it's good to shoot with wider lenses, 24, 20 millimeter, because these lenses will show less of the shake, and so the movement will be smoother. Overall, when you're shooting handheld, I recommend shooting between 50 millimeter lens on the maximum spectrum and then just wider, 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 wider. One thing that you might hear also quite often is that you might want to shoot slow motion, because slow motion basically helps you minimize the shake by slowing down the footage. And yes, it is true, but before you shoot slow motion, you should always ask yourself, is slow motion the right choice? Because oftentimes you might shoot slow motion and then you realize that it wasn't the right choice. And when you bring the footage to normal speed, then it looks a little jittery. So if I'm shooting slow motion, I really want to make sure that it's an intentional choice and it's not a choice just to stabilize the footage. And that brings me to tip number 4, guys, intentionality. So if you're shooting handheld, make sure that your camera movements are intentional. The way I like to move my camera is based on the character. So if the character is moving, I will move with the character oftentimes. If the character is still, I will try to keep the camera still or with just sort of a minimal movement, imagining that I'm making an infinitive symbol, and that way kind of camera moves from side to side. And then when the character starts moving, I might start moving as well. You could also follow the action with the camera. So let's say that the character is picking up something. You could then kind of follow character's hand, let him or let her pick it up, and then kind of go back. These are just few examples, and obviously you will find your own ways to move the camera, but always think with intention.
Fue porque necesitaba trabajar.
So guys, as I said, shooting handheld footage is extremely important, but it's not everything. If you would like to know what goes into a full-on production of a short documentary film for an NGO, then I have recently launched my own digital store, and there's a 40-minute long breakdown of behind the scenes that takes you on the journey from the initiation of the project all the way to the wrap and a little bit of post-production. So check that one out, the link is in the description of this video. And there's other offerings such as 10-day filmmaking retreat in Bali, which is a super hands-on in-the-field experience for those of you who really want to elevate your skills in a short period of time. Now back to the video. And tip number 5, or rather than a tip, these are the tools that you can use to stabilize your camera. So first of all, I spoke about the bum bag, which is a great tool because you can have batteries in, you can have a knife, multi-tool, lens filter, whatever you need in the bum bag. But at the same time, you can use it as a third point of stabilization. I love using this and I bring it on most of my productions. Now, the second one would be probably a cine saddle, which you can see right here. So this is a red bag from a company called Focusrite, and you basically put this over your shoulder. You can put your camera on the saddle, and it's even more comfortable than the bum bag. So as you can see, I could even let go of the camera if I really want to, but of course, I don't want to do that. But this really allows me to move from side to side and get very stable footage, or get a stable footage with just a still shot. Now, the good thing on this is that you can adjust the strap, so you can bring it higher if you want to, you can bring it lower, and at the same time you can just throw your camera on it and kind of, instead of a tripod, you put this on the ground, put your camera on it, change the lenses and so on. It's very lightweight, pretty easy to travel with, so I highly recommend getting one of those, especially if you shoot a lot of documentaries, and especially if you're shooting in environments where, for example, easy rig is too big, like a jungle environment or high up in the mountains. Talking about easy rig, that's another tool that you can use, but I don't use it a lot for adventure filmmaking because, again, it's too bulky, it gets in the way, and it's kind of takes too long to switch between easy rig and handheld. Where here, I just take the camera off, put this behind me, and I can go and I can move with the camera. So a quick recap, guys. First of all, make sure that you add some weight and balance to your camera. Also make sure that you lock your camera in if you want to get really stable movement. And then if you want to move with your camera, learn the ninja walk and learn how to move within your knees and hips in order to move the camera around. Next one, be intentional with your camera movement. Figure out a way how the camera moves within the story so that you create a unified style for the film that you're shooting. And then the last one, use the tools that you have available, whether that's a bum bag, whether that's getting a cine saddle, or maybe shooting with shoulder rig, so that you figure out what works the best for you and your style of shooting. Now, as I said, knowing how to shoot handheld is extremely important for documentary cinematographers, but maybe even more important is knowing how to light interviews, especially if you're starting and you don't know how to use lights. I've made a video recently where I break down 4 interviews that I've shot only using window light. So if you want to improve your cinematography, check the video here. That's it from me for today, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.